I'm Javon, that's Tyson, that's Nick, and that's Matthew, and we're going to be making a video on the Book Thief Section 10, where we'll be doing a brief summary of the events, quotation analysis, character development, identifying and explaining the theme, as well as asking some thinking questions to keep y'all on your toes.
Part 10 Summary. Death tells a small part of the Himmel Street bombing. Hans starts an office job working for the army. Michael Holtzapfel kills himself by hanging from rafters in a shop. Max is alive and Liesl sees him walking in the crowd of Jewish people down Munich Street. Liesl runs out to see him. A soldier drags Liesl back to the Germans. Liesl runs out again, and this time both Max and Liesl get whipped by the soldier. Liesl tells Rudy about Max. Liesl goes to Ilse Hermans to steal a book, but rips it up instead. She leaves an apology letter. Liesl writes her own story in the blank-paged book from Ilse Herman. Molken gets bombed, and Liesl is the only survivor on Himmel Street.
Dear Mama, can you ever forgive me? I just couldn't stand it any longer. I'm meeting Robert. I don't care what the damn Catholics say about it. There must be a heaven for those who have been where I've been. You might think I don't love you because of what I've done, but I do. This quote is important because this shows how the war has affected Michael's family and, more importantly, Germany. I'm here, Max, she said again. I'm here. Page 511. That was the part where Liesl finds Max. This quote is important because Liesl gets to see Max again and realizes he's failed in escaping. She had seen her brother die with one eye open, one still in a dream. She had said goodbye to her mother and imagined her lonely wait for a truck back home to oblivion. A woman with wire had herself down, her scream traveling the street, till it fell sideways like a rolled coin starved of momentum. A young boy hung by a rope made of Stalingrad snow. She watched a bomber pilot die in a metal case. She had seen a Jewish man who had twice given her the most beautiful pages of her life march to a concentration camp. In the center of all of it, she saw the Führers shouting his words and passing them around. Don't make me happy, please. Don't fill me up and let me think that something good can come out of any of this. Look at my bruises. Look at this graze. Do you see the graze inside me? Do you see it growing before your very eyes, eroding me? Page 520. This quote is important because it shows how these events in her life has hurt her and damaged her for life due to the state of Germany at the time. I have hated the words and I have loved them, and I hope I have made them right. Page 528. This quote is important because this shows Liesl's love-hate relationship with words. Without words, Hitler might not have been able to do the things he did, but all the good things words have done for Liesl would have never existed either. I realized at that moment she was not wearing any shoes. What an odd thing to notice right then. Page 536. This quote is important because, in this quote, Death is distracting himself like he does when he's picking up the dead. I think this implies that Death felt a connection with Liesl and her family and felt extremely bad about it. To make it easier for everyone, here's a small recap. done? Alright, let's move on.
Starting with Liesel. The first quote that I'll be talking about is on page 499 when the LSE was digging through the rubble to get to Liesel. The man had such a nice laugh. He was delivering a newborn child. This quote is significant because not only is it a metaphor to emphasize the relief that the worker had at the realization that Liesel had survived, but it also represents that this event would change Liesel so drastically that you could almost say she was being reborn as a completely new person. The next quote is on page 515 after Liesel finds Max, but they are forcefully separated and beaten by the Nazi soldiers. Waywardly, she began to walk and then run down Munich Street to haul in the last steps of Max Vandenberg. She escaped the grip of Rudy's words and ignored the watching people at her side. Please, Max. This quote shows Liesel's determination and love for Max. Liesel cared so much for Max that she chased after him during the parade, even after getting whipped by the soldiers, just to be able to see him again. All the way to the end of the book, Liesel remains a poor, kind-hearted German girl in an unfair world. Now, it's time for Rudy, page 517. Promise. I did already. Do it again. You can't tell your mother, your brother, or Tommy Muller. Nobody. I promise. This conversation between Rudy and Liesel shows how much Rudy matured over the course of the story, as evident in the way he picked up on the seriousness of the situation and the absence of the word Samensch. The next quote I will be using is on page 531, as the city of Molking suffocates in its rest. He lay in bed with one of his sisters. She must have kicked him or muscled her way into the majority of the bed space, because he was on the very edge with his arm around her. I chose this quote because it shows how much Rudy has changed from the young thieving child to the good selfless young man that we have seen him in the last two sections of the book, giving up his bed space for his little sister and comforting her through her sleep. Now that the book is over, we can actually identify the character types of Rudy and Liesel. Liesel is a static character, as from the beginning of the book to the end, she performs acts of kindness and provides comfort to the people around her and cares deeply about her friends and family. In contrast, Rudy is a dynamic character, and we see his personality change over the course of the novel. From mischievous, thieving, childish runner with big aspirations to a humble, selfless, mature boy with whom our sympathies lie by the end of the story.
The thematic topic of The Book Thief is the power of words. Zuzak clearly displays elements of words separating and bringing together people in this section. Let's look at some quotations. The words. Why did they have to exist? Without them, there wouldn't be any of this. Without words, the Führer was nothing. Liesel is beginning to blame words for empowering the man she realized was responsible for all of her pain back in part 2. When she returns home from the library, she goes on to write The Book Thief. Upon finishing her book, she reads it over in the basement. It is during this time that everyone dies in a raid that she only survived due to being in the basement, once quoted as being too shallow. Words saved Liesel. The word she both loves and hates saves her life. If you think farther back in the book, whenever the characters were in the bunker during a raid, Liesel would read to them. This was comforting and inspired hope in everyone. This is similar to how Hitler inspired hope in the German people, once again showing the power and duality of words. World War II was a strong choice and period to present this concept, because words held such power over action in this time in the form of propaganda. In Germany, Hitler used propaganda to vilify the Jewish people in Germany. Hitler also burned the words of those who challenged his vision of a perfect Germany. This is represented in the word shaker. The reader can infer that the best word shaker is Liesel, who hates Hitler. When her tree grows, the Führer in the story attempts to cut down her tree. Posters and comics at the time also contained racist depictions of Jews. But Nazi Germany isn't the only country at the time creating racist propaganda. If we look west to America, we can see tons of racist depictions of Germans, and especially the Japanese. For example, Captain America Issue 1's cover shows Captain America, essentially America personified, punching Hitler in the face. Created by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon, both Jewish and major influences in the comic book industry. Another example is Disney, who produced two famous shorts, Der Führer's Face and Education of Death, both written by Jewish writer Joe Grant. And let's not forget that Hollywood was dominated by war propaganda produced by companies with Jewish founders such as Paramount Pictures, Warner Brothers, MGM, and Universal. To this day, American media focuses on World War II. Even Star Wars, one of the most successful franchises of all time, names its villainous army after the Nazi stormtroopers. In the end, the quote-unquote Allies won the war after Japan's surrender, which came after America dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing thousands of soldiers and even more civilians. In Japan, war is, in general, displayed as tragic and sad, while in America it is triumphant. Even the fact that the winners of the war are referred to as allies really goes to show that, as their expression goes, history is written by the victors. And when it comes down to it, it is the writer that truly wields the power of words.
Am I glad to be a citizen of the United States of America?